Okay, let's compare and contrast two human errors in the sport of Formula One.
Christian, we just saw you talking to Rich there. I've never known Red Bull to have an incident like that.
Yeah, we've never known an incident like that to happen.
Really unusual for you guys.
Yeah, look, it's a human error. We'll learn from it.
So it's a human error that we've got to learn from. Let's have a look at the human error and let's see how people responded to that human error. What's going on here? Red Bull are changing the tyres on their car.
As well, out on the track, Antonelli is also in the pits. Oh, there's contact!
Oh, the media? With surprise that there's contact. Oh, there's contact!
In the pit lane between Verstappen and Antonelli.
Oh, shit. Well, therefore we react authentically.
The Atlas crash, that was always going to happen when Red Bull released.
It's always going to happen when Red Bull released. Oh, so immediately we're identifying that immediately that's the problem. Yeah? Red Bull are guilty of releasing their driver into the path of another car. The media has identified the human error and who has caused the problem. Red Bull releasing their car. Immediately. Incredible.
Verstappen into the path of Antonelli. He's wiped out his front wing. It's not enough to end Verstappen's race. Antonelli continued through. That's the first time. That's the definition of unsafe release.
That's the definition of an unsafe release, say the media. Yeah, because we're able to identify when something's wrong, aren't we? Because we're the media, we're the experts of the sport. There's a human error, okay? The human error being that the guy that's in charge of assessing when it's safe to release the car has got it wrong and he's released Max Verstappen into the path of a vehicle that's coming down that pit lane. Okay, so he's performed a human error, he's got it wrong. And the media can identify that. But this guy that's got it wrong, he got, a couple of seconds to make his assessments. He's in that high pressure situation of the pit stop happening, okay, that they want to get done within like 2 seconds stationary, ideally. The car stops, the tyres get changed, you're getting back into the pit lane. So during that time, this guy is watching his mechanics. He's making sure that they've done their job on the car, and then he's keeping his eye on the pit lane, making sure there's no car that's coming down that pit lane that Verstappen's good to go. Yeah, so that's the pressure. That's all happening within, 2 seconds? Right, and he's got it wrong. That is a pressurised situation, but the bloke has got it wrong. And media can talk about that.
What were Red Bull thinking? Big contact.
What were Red Bull thinking?
That will definitely go to the stewards.
What were Red Bull thinking?
The drivers now pitting.
And that will definitely go to the stewards. That means there's going to be a consequence for that. Isn't it strange how this human error can be spoken about freely? And they can identify that there's a problem, they can identify there's a perpetrator, a culprit, and that there's going to be a consequence for it.
Carlos Sainz going very slowly on the track.
So, anyway, that was that human error. All right, that was a human making an error of judgment causing a problem. Let's compare that with the other notable human error in the show of Formula One. Now, the human error was Michael Masi under pressure to construct a racing finish to the season finale. Where the 2021 championship went down to the last race of the last Grand Prix of the season. Two drivers go into the final race, level on points. You couldn't make it up, could you? And it goes down to the last lap of the last Grand Prix of the season, like the plot of a film that you couldn't write or you couldn't make it up, could you? Now, just before the human error occurs, 6 laps before the human error occurs, because it's not like a 2-second thing. And he's not on his own. It's not just one guy in charge of a light bulb that makes a 2-second decision. This is Michael Masi in an air-conditioned office with 9 of his colleagues sat around him, with about 15 minutes of a safety car situation unfolding in order to make that human error within that time scale. Strange that, isn't it? Strange that. But before the human error, this happens.
Has to be this lap, mate.
It has to be this lap, mate. What has to be this lap, mate? Well, we can go to track review.
Max at the end of this season. Will he think back to Silverstone?
And there's Nicholas Latifi after coming down this straight here and just being told it has to be this lap, mate. So we go 10 seconds on when the buffering catches up. Typical. I try and make a video when the internet decides it wants to throw a wobbler and not fast forward 10 seconds. Instead, you get me trying to pad this out. Well, I've just had to reload it after buffering, but we'll carry on. Well, this is Latifi's car anyway, having turn one. I would actually chunk this forward by 10 seconds because that was my intention, but we'll actually have a listen through to the media talking about things to build up to what we're about to see.
Will he think back to Silverstone? Will he think that if I'd have just given up the fight that day to win the overall battle, I'd be world champion now? Or will that not enter his mind?
I've asked him that a couple.
The media. Oh, we're in a situation where Max is losing the champion. Will Max regret Silverstone? Oh, incite the fanboy there. You know, that one where you incited everyone to believe that Lewis Hamilton was at fault for that crash. Yeah. Will Max be thinking, if I'd have just given up the fight there, I'd be world champion right now? This is the mind conditioning machine. Okay? What you wouldn't be world champion right now, because who's to say that if you'd have backed out on lap one of Silverstone at Copse, then who'd have said that you'd have won that Grand Prix? Because there's no guarantees of that, is there? There's no guarantees that you'd have finished Silverstone. You might have suffered a mechanical failure. You might have had an incident. Okay, so just backing out of turn one, Copse Corner turn at Silverstone that year didn't guarantee anything. And even if you had have stayed on the track, and even if you had have finished first or second in that race, that doesn't guarantee you the championship now. This race isn't finished. You could still not finish this race, getting 0 points at this event. So why are you saying I'd be world champion right now? What are you trying to convince everybody of, Crofty?
The times on camera, and he's like, no, I would. In fact, he actually rejoined on that when I asked
I would suggest that is a human error, Crofty.
him that in Brazil. He said, no, I'd do the same thing again. My feeling is, I don't know why you do the same thing again, because he had a 33-point lead that morning and ended up, sadly for Max, in hospital there.
He had a 33-point lead and ended up in hospital. Enrage the fanboy. Enrage the radicalised strap-on fanboy.
Lando Norris on and up to 8th place after a late pit stop caused by that slow puncture.
Yeah, remember, Lando, this is important, kids. This is important because no media, no mind conditioning machine will explain this to you. So Lando, he was in 5th position. He had the slow puncture, the tyre issue, because tyres are a really big problem in this race. So he had the slow puncture, came out in 10th after having to pit, came out behind Ocon and Alonso, but overtook them. He's now trying to chase down Gasly and Tsunoda. But having pitted, Hamilton, the leader, went through, meaning that Norris is now essentially a lapped car, but it's still in a race. You can see over on the list here, he's in 8th. Gasly's just up here at turn 5 in 7th. All right. Now, if we have a safety situation, what happens is they deploy the safety car to deal with it quite often. And the leader gets held back by the safety car, and all the other cars disappear off around the track and join the end of this safety car snake. But Lando Norris here has to wait behind Hamilton. So from being just this far behind Gasly, the car that he's trying to track down for 7th position, all that dynamics all ruined now, isn't it, due to having to deal with a safety incident. So what we have is a regulation, a mandatory procedure that needs to be carried out in this sport to restore sporting fairness to all competitors prior to the resumption of play, prior to the resumption of sport. Okay, and that is that the cars that have been lapped, right, which is Norris, Alonso, Ocon, they are released past the safety car and afforded at least one lap of the track to make it around that track to catch up with the back of the safety car snake to restore sporting fairness to all competitors. Most people that are followers of the sport aren't told that. They're told it's to get them out of the way of the race between the leaders, because we want to see a duel, a race-off between just two competitors. Get them out of the way. You didn't get them out of the way of third place being able to challenge for second place. So that made-up story doesn't make sense. That's another human error, isn't it? Yeah, lots of human errors. There'll be many. Which one's a human error? So that's the dynamics.
He's charging through the field. His teammate Daniel Ricciardo moves out of the way of Max Verstappen, then quickly gets back onto the racing line because he wants to try and keep Charles Leclerc at bay, but both Ricciardo and Leclerc out of the points at the moment. Mercedes on course to be Constructors' champions for a 8th record-breaking, 8th consecutive.
Mercedes are on course to become Constructors' champions for a record-breaking 8th. What about Lewis Hamilton? Is Lewis Hamilton on course for becoming a record-breaking 8th champion? Because that's really the thing that most people are actually more concerned about. Most people are most concerned about the individuals involved here, the drivers. You know, are we in the process of witnessing history? Okay, because the historic kind of accomplishments are those that are notable. Are those that relate to the drivers? Yeah, Michael Schumacher's record of 7 world championships, is that going to be broken by Lewis Hamilton?
Time, and in a season where the regulations changed ever so slightly, but at their detriment at the start of this season, it's once again a great recovery because they felt they've been hampered coming into this season by those slight regulation changes.
Well,
remember Nicholas Latifi? I showed you his on board at the start of the lap. It has to be this lap. What has to be this lap, Nicholas Latifi? The blue dot at turn 14, that's Nicholas Latifi. Has to be this lap.
that feels like a long time ago, doesn't it? But yeah.
Oh no! Nicholas Latifi's blue dot has come to a standstill.
Yes, Mercedes had an awful pre-season test, didn't they? We thought they would be in terrible trouble come the first race.
Oh no! Nicholas Latifi has crashed, and I think that is at turn 14, where we saw
safety car.
Kimi Raikkonen crash in practice. It is at turn 14.
That will be a full safety car. Now, what we do see, will that be the safety car? We often get the question asked, don't we? But no, Martin's absolutely right. No human error this time for Martin. Martin's able to say immediately that will be a full safety car.
And yes, that will be a safety car because marshals are going to need to recover that Williams and to work on it, and this now completely changes the context of this race if they can clear the Williams in time and we can have a couple of laps racing to the checkered flag.
If we can have a couple of laps racing to the checkered flag. What's the average time taken then, Crofty? Because the average time taken, I'll tell you because you won't, because you're the experts, but you don't inform people. 5.5 laps. Takes on average 5.5 laps. Now you see, look where Hamilton is. Now Hamilton's here and he's nearly coming around here to complete lap 53, leaving him with 5 laps to go. Now it takes on average 5.5 laps before racing can resume. That's on average. So sometimes it's longer and sometimes it's less. This particular situation, the car catches fire and therefore requires the deployment of a fire extinguisher, and that extinguisher powder goes onto the track, prolonging the sweep-up operation. So you would say that when we relate this to an average, this is going to be even more, take even longer than 5.5 laps. All right, so the likelihood of being able to resume racing is highly unlikely anyway. Okay, because if it takes 5.5 laps, when we don't resume racing until 5.5 laps have elapsed, that will be on the 59th lap of the race, but it's only a 58 lap race, so we're on course for a safety car finish. These boys with all the stats at their disposal, with all the data at their disposal, are they getting it right by suggesting we're bound to see a couple?
There's bound to be a couple, and of course that's...
Is that an error as well? Is that a human error, Martin? Bound to be a couple, we condition the minds of the watchers with.
Where Max Verstappen's much fresher tyres will fire up.
That's where Max Verstappen's much fresher tyres will fire up.
Give him the confidence on any kind of restart.
And give him the confidence on any kind of restart, but not all, because any doesn't mean all. What type of restart isn't any type of restart, Martin? Max is still on hard tyres. There they are. Look, still on the hard tyres. Them hard tyres are going to fire up much quicker than Lewis Hamilton's hard tyres, because that's what they do. The hard rubber compound tyre fires up much quicker, doesn't it, than the other hard, because it's done less laps. It fires up much quicker. Or is it? It's the same compound of rubber. They'll fire up at the same rate because it's got the same thermodynamic properties to fire up, even though one has utilized a bit more of that rubber than the other one. It's the same chemical compound, we are led to believe. Gives him the confidence on any kind of restart, though.
Any kind of restart, it depends how there will be. I'm pretty sure on lap 52.
That's a human error because Hamilton's on lap 53 now.
Because of the slow pace with 5 to go, that they'll.
But absolutely right. There's now 5 to go, but Hamilton's on one of those 5.
Probably have a lap or two, as long as they get it. If they get it,
they'll probably have a lap or two. Well, if the average time is 5.5 laps, and there are only 5.4 laps remaining at the time of Nicholas Latifi's crash for Hamilton, where'd you get that? Probably a lap or two, Martin.
Get a vehicle on there and get that out of the way.
And coming into the pits, Max Verstappen. Hamilton stays out. Verstappen coming into the pits.
Remember, Michael Massey's sitting there with his 9, at least, FIA colleagues around him, determining what to do. Well, what he's done, he's looked at the situation via the cameras, realised that there's a car on track in need of being recovered, and he's made a decision, and the decision is, I'm going to use the safety car to deal with this. From that moment in time, it's in the hands of the clerk of the course. The clerk of the course will oversee the clear-up operation, and he'll ensure that everything is then safe before he then hands back to race control. What race control then does, at the point the track is declared safe, race control will then carry out the mandatory procedures, the regulation. Prior to now resuming the sport that we've had to intervene in, we've had to what's the word I'm looking for? We've had to pause the sport whilst we deal with a safety issue. All right. So now that it's safe to resume the sport, prior to the resumption of the sport, we have to reset the conditions for everybody, because what we're about to see unfold in front of us is how things become skewed. So from a position of Lando Norris looking to be able to challenge Pierre Gasly, the car in front of him, this will all change. And you can't allow a safety concern to ruin the races of competitors. And this is why we have these regulations underpinned by the FIA International Sporting Code. They don't tell you that, though. That's a human error in them failing to tell you that.
And I would imagine there's a set of soft tyres waiting for him to go onto that Red Bull car. Yes, it is.
Box. Negative.
Right, so if there is a restart, Verstappen now has fresh soft tyres. Lewis has heavily used hard compound tyres. They will let any lap runners through on the safety car.
They will let any lap run. That's a carefully chosen word there, Martin, because any doesn't mean all, does it, Martin? Yeah, we've got that in the script. They will let any lap runners through, says Martin. Just double check that. Make sure we're not making any human errors.
Verstappen now has fresh soft tyres. Lewis has heavily used hard compound tyres. They will let any lap runners through on the safety car restart.
On the safety car restart, yeah, they'll let all that qualify, Martin. Okay, so it's any car that's been lapped by the leader will be required to pass the leader in the safety car. The safety car will then return to the pits at the end of the following lap. The race director does have the discretion to keep that safety car on track for a further lap to ensure sporting fairness is restored to all those competitors, as Michael Massey has demonstrated that he did on 4 separate occasions. I've done that in all my other videos, but that's what the situation is, Martin. And it's the qualifying criteria. As long as they're all met, as long as they were all lapped at this point. And if we look at this, it's not difficult to assess who these cars are. Lando Norris here is in 8th position. So everybody 8th position and below has been lapped by the leader. And providing you don't then get lapped. So for example, Gasly, if Gasly pits now, and whilst he's in the pits, Hamilton passes him, that makes Gasly lap. That doesn't happen, so we don't need to worry about that.
And he will presumably end up, well, they had nothing to lose. Once again, Red Bull had nothing to lose here.
They have nothing to lose. Hamilton is a long way clear as
Remember, everybody, Red Bull has nothing to lose.
Perez also pits, as we can see, and there's quite a few coming into the pits. Hamilton's a long way clear on the track, but I rather get the feeling by the time
Perez also on the fresh soft compound tyre. 2 Red Bull cars on the fresh soft compound of tyre. This is going to get very racy on any kind of restart, but not all kinds of restarts.
he comes around to the main straight, he's not going to be able to pit and stay ahead of Max Verstappen. That chance wasn't there or has gone by for Mercedes.
Verstappen tucked up
It wasn't there or has gone by.
behind Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin there.
But he won't be on the restart.
But he won't be on the he won't be on the restart. The restart. No mention of any human errors yet.
That's unbelievable.
Wow.
So look, we're on lap 54 of 58 here. They've got to clear that debris away, and the fire extinguishers have obviously gone off because the brakes, I'm sure, were getting very, very hot. But they've also got to let the lapped cars unlap themselves.
Absolutely right, Crofty.
Just at the back of my mind, I wonder if we're going to get any racing laps in
Absolutely right, Crofty.
this race. Wait and see. This is what happened
But wait and see.
to Nicholas Latifi. He was scrapping away with Mick Schumacher.
That's not
Wait and see. It's going to be a split second, 2-second human error decision.
a corner he crashed on, is it?
That was earlier on, I think, in the...
But what we can assess is we're having a look. We've got the cameras in race control. We can assess how long this is taking. The fact that there's been a fire causing a fire extinguisher to be set off, causing powder on the track, prolonging the clear-up operation. We can observe this. It's not like a pit stop that needs to be done in 2 seconds. And that pressure, it's different. This one is different.
In the skirmish with Schumacher,
But the media are able to talk about it in the right way, aren't they?
they barged wheels, went off the track, would have picked up a bit of dust and debris on his tyres.
I mean, by now, I think Alonso's saying, "Come on, we need to be unlapping now to get this job done." Let's have a listen to Alonso. This one here. You see, Alonso's just come by the scene.
Yeah, we should unlap and get the job done.
We should unlap and get this job done. Hang on a minute, Fernando. Oh, it's going to buffer on me again. I've gone back 10. This is going back 20 seconds. There you go. You're just driving through the cloud of smoke now. You're seeing Latifi's car still on the track. You're seeing all that powder where the fire extinguisher is there, Fernando. You are the most experienced driver. You probably weren't. Kimi Räikkönen was in that particular race. But Fernando's an experienced guy. He knows the safety car procedures. He knows the situation. He knows the point in time where the unlapping takes place. But
Yeah, we should unlap and get the job done until...
get the job. What's the job, Fernando? What's the job done? And you're thinking that you need to unlap whilst there's a car still on the track. When have you done that before, Fernando? Oh, is that a human error, Fernando?
They retire the car
Before they retire, who's retiring the car?
because if not, it's gonna be too late.
Who's retiring the car, Fernando? And what's going to be too late, Fernando? Let me know what you think in the comments section, Fernando. Let's go back to here.
Racing laps. If there are, then Verstappen. Oh, what jeopardy at the end of this Grand Prix. Probably dirty tyres from being offline there. Will we get any more race?
Probably, he was explaining Latifi's crash there, and it was the dirty tyres that caused Latifi to crash. Not the choreographed little fight with Mick Schumacher that he had, that causing the dirty tyres that then Martin could then expose to the global audience that was the reason. It wasn't the fact that then Latifi went round turn 14 in third gear as opposed to what he normally goes round there in fourth. So you go round in a lower gear, you dump the throttle, you spin the back end up, and your back end spins out into the wall. Now, if you were asked to, how would you crash a car around turn 14? Well, like that. That would be how you'd select to do it. But anyway.
Racing laps or not? What jeopardy at the end of this Grand Prix, the end of this World Championship. Will there be any more racing laps? If there are...
Oh, what jeopardy. Stay on the edge of your seats. Let's see if there's going to be a human error.
Then Verstappen has got the tyres to really do something with them. Will they let the lap runners through?
Will they let the lap runners through? Now, here's a human error, Martin. They have to. Why are you proposing that it is a question? Why are you asking the audience, many of which have never watched Formula One before, but you've enticed to watch the show because some major shit's going to happen, the drama? Will they let the lap runners through? Well, yeah. And the reason being, I told you about Pierre Gasly being the car ahead of Lando Norris. Well, what's happened here? Yuki Tsunoda, his teammate, he pitted and he lost position to Gasly. But this is Gasly, the car that Norris was previously trying to track down. Well, Gasly, with Norris held back behind the lead car, is appearing off around the track and will ultimately catch the back of this safety car snake. And prior to the resumption of the sport, you have to reset the condition to the restart condition, which is why the regulation is mandatory. But Martin's just asked us, will they let them through? Well, they have to. Why is the presented expert of the sport asking us whether they're going to carry out a mandatory procedure that has to be carried out? That's a human error.
Well, they always do let the lap runners through.
Absolutely right, Crofty. See, good cop, bad cop. Can't create there's confusion. Oh, they always do. Let me know what you think in the comment. It's not about letting us know what you think in the comment section. It just is. That's what you have to do. But they want to make you think that you've got a valid opinion that you're entitled to. Yes, because that's how they get away with their corruption and criminality.
And in between Hamilton and Verstappen, Norris, Alonso, Ocon, Leclerc and Vettel.
Yes, we've correctly, without any human error, identified just the 5 cars in between cars 1 and 2 in that race. But it's not just cars 1 and 2 in that race, is it? There's cars 3, 4, 5 and 6. What cars are in between positions 2 and 3? Can position 3 fire up on the restart and maybe take over from position 2? Oh, this is going to affect them all, isn't it? On the restart, anything can happen. Third can challenge for second, can't they?
Yes, but if they do that, it extends the safety car period.
No, it doesn't, Martin. It's not an extension of the safety car period. It's a mandatory requirement of that safety car period. So it's not an extension to it. It's a mandatory part of it, which just forms part of the timescale of that safety car period.
But that's what...
So why are you trying to gaslight the audience into believing that that is the situation? But that's what
they always do. Take the lap runners out of the way so they're not interfering in play.
That's the situation behind me.
That's not the reason, Crofty, is it? That's not the reason, so they're not interfering in play. It's to restore sporting fairness to Lando Norris here, who's been held back behind Hamilton. And whilst at the same time, Tsunoda and Gasly, the guys he was trying to chase, are now all this far ahead and will ultimately line up at the back of this safety car snake, leaving Lando Norris essentially now a lap behind the cars that he was previously seeking to challenge. Actually, Lando Norris was closer to Gasly than Verstappen was to Hamilton before the crash, before it having to be this lap.
Situation is, Verstappen has pitted. He had a free pit stop. We would have lost track position to him. 4 laps remaining when you cross the line. So this field has to bunch, and then they have to send lap cars through.
There's actually 3 laps remaining because this radio message took place before they crossed the line. But F1 TV choose to play it to the global world to condition the minds, to skew what it is we think is happening here, because that's what they do. They pick and choose what they show us. They pick and choose what we hear to create that narrative of what they want us to believe the situation to be. Is that by error or is that by design? Let me know what you think in the comment section. It's by design, by the way.
So it may not restart.
Is he right behind me?
He will be once they've...
He will be. This is Bono here. Bono playing his part. You know, Mercedes are the victims, or are they complicit? No, they're complicit. They took a barrister, a King's Counsel legal expert to the race to play the facade of, oh, legally, there's nothing Mercedes can do. Because even if a legal expert can't do anything about it, there's nothing that you can do about it. Don't you go worrying your little heads.
Sorted out all the order. This is going to take a while to sort out.
There might be one.
With new tyres.
Copy, Lewis. We would have lost track position if we had pitted.
And that was the big key here. Mercedes for the second.
And that was the big key here. Mercedes with the tyre strategy. We're saying the big key here, right? Crofty, the expert of the sport, the commentator, the narrator of the fix, that is the big key here. Whether you could pit onto soft tyres or not, Mercedes would lose track position. Red Bull had nothing to lose. That's the big key. No. The big key here is it possible to get this race started or not? Or is it going to be a safety car finish? That's the big key. Because if it's not possible to resume this race, then it'll be a safety car finish. Lewis Hamilton will be champion. Nothing to worry about there, is there? No dramas, okay? It's a safety car finish, just like the safety car finish we've just had at the Miami sprint race. That's the big key here. Is it possible to clear this up in time? Let's have a look. Because they won't show us. Let's have a look at Nicholas Latifi's car. Oh, there he is. He's on the back of a crane. Been lifted up. There they are on track. Still on track. Still at the location of the fire. Okay, they've lifted him up and they're going to take him off. So we'll come back to this.
Is there a vehicle?
Potentially losing track position. Mercedes for the second time, keeping Lewis Hamilton out whilst Max Verstappen pitted.
This was the big key from Crofty, by the way.
Red Bull had nothing to lose. Hamilton.
Red Bull had nothing to lose.
Potentially losing track position, and in this case, if we don't go racing again because you can't overtake under the safety car, he would have lost the World Championship.
In this case, talk us through that again. Let's make sure you're not making a human error here, Crofty.
Hamilton potentially losing track position, and in this case, if we don't go racing again because you can't overtake under the safety car, he would have lost the World Championship.
Strange way of you articulating that, isn't it, Crofty? In this case, if he'd have lost track position, which he didn't, because you can't overtake under the safety car, he'd have lost the World Championship. Well, he didn't, did he? So why are you framing it that Hamilton would have lost the World Championship for doing something that he didn't do? Because it didn't happen. Okay, that's a really strange way of putting that, isn't it, Crofty? Hamilton would have lost the World Championship if he'd have pitted, but he didn't. And you can't overtake in the safety car. So actually, the easier way of putting it in that, Crofty, would have been, if we don't get a resumption to racing, Hamilton would be the world champion because there's no overtaking under the safety car. Yeah, that would be the simple way of doing it.
Is there a vehicle pulling the Williams out of the way or not yet?
Yeah, I've just showed you that from Latifi's camera. It's quite easy to identify. But is there, says Martin Brundle. Martin Brundle makes a human error, can't articulate to the world whether there is or not.
Can't see.
But he can keep you guessing. They can't see.
At the moment,
They can't see. Although they could tell you exactly what was going on at Alonso's crash site at the Miami Grand Prix Sprint. Yep.
Down to you.
Yeah, have a load of other people pitting. Yuki Tsunoda, Pierre Gasly, Daniel Ricciardo. We've had Lance Stroll as well into the pits.
There's Pierre Gasly coming out now, back behind Tsunoda after the Red Bull B team has pitted both of their cars onto the soft compound tyre. Now you'll see Gasly disappear off around and catch the back of the safety car snake, being a lap ahead of Norris.
Give you those orders as they shake out, but yeah, it was just bad luck. I mean, you saw the Mercedes mechanics just hanging around outside the pits, looking at whether they had the order to come in. But Hamilton was so close to the pit entrance that it does seem that
embellish the scenarios and the like. There's a simplicity to all of this, but they won't show you that.
the engineer's right there. Whatever they would have done, they would have lost track position.
The safety car's not going full gas down the straight.
Copy, Lewis. Understood.
His tyres are cooling. He needs
Oh, the cold tyres.
more pace, more heat into those tyres.
This is awful for Lewis then with those hard compound, heavily used
It's awful for Lewis with the tyres.
tyres. So there's the shot then that caused the safety. It has to be a safety car there. And but will they let the lap runners through? I don't think.
That's another human error for Martin Brundle. Will they let the lap runners through? Now, they have to, Martin. It's not an option. They've done it every time there's been this sort of situation since these regulations were reintroduced at the beginning of the 2012 season. How are you making this human error at the last race of the 2021 season? The end of the 10th full season after this change of regulation to become these regulations that they've been competing under for the last 10 years. Will they let the lap runners through? They have to. Lando Norris here. Look at his location relative to the guy in 7th position, Gasly. Oh, you can't leave him that disadvantage due to somebody else crashing.
It's absolutely mandatory.
Martin doesn't think it's absolutely mandatory. This is the expert of the sport projecting that it's not a mandatory regulation. It is. There's a human error, isn't it, Martin? There's a human error. How many human errors are we up to now? Let's count the human errors.
But that's normally on a wet day that they.
It's on a wet day where they apply the regulations differently. No, wet days have nothing to do with it, Martin.
Don't. And if so, how long will they wait?
Ask the audience, these 108.7 million people that you've attracted. What are they going to do here? Well, you're the expert telling to tell them the regulations accurately, Martin. Oh, what are they going to do? You're making an error asking them how long they're going to wait. Well, the regulations are, once the last lapped car has passed the leader, the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. Now, it would be unimaginable for them to prolong this period with such jeopardy, wouldn't it, Martin? So when you ask the question, how long will they wait? It's very unlikely that it's going to be more than that mandatory lap beyond the lap of release, wouldn't it, Martin? But you're asking the audience again, how long will they wait?
For those lap cars to get out of the way. If they wait.
It's not about getting them out of the way. It's enabling the opportunity for Lando Norris to catch Gasly to restore sporting fairness prior to the resumption of sporting competition.
For them to catch the pack up, which they don't have to do.
No, they have to be afforded the opportunity. Okay, but what we're doing here, it's all part of the script. If they wait for them to catch the back, which they don't have to do, nope. They don't technically have to do that, but the actual fundamental principle of the operation, the fundamental principle of that regulation is for that to be achieved. Okay, if it's not quite achieved, it's a bit of a discretionary thing, but you still have to carry out that mandatory procedure in order to seek to achieve it.
Then I don't think we'll get a racing lap if they.
Absolutely right, Martin. Why is that? Oh, because it might be that the earliest they can release those lapped cars is on lap 57, and if the lap of release is lap 57, then lap 58 has to be a mandatory safety car lap, which means it's a safety car finish. And you've just said, I don't think, if they do that, I don't think there'll be a racing lap. Absolutely right. But we have to play good cop, bad cop. We have to present confusion. Everybody is confused because nobody can talk about it in a clear manner, in the way that I can clearly explain it to everybody. But everybody, what's going to happen? We're under all so much pressure. This split second, 2-second pit stop where somebody's going to make a human error. Or have we just got plenty of time to tell people what's got to go on here and what decisions need to be made before to determine whether or not we're able to see any more racing in this race or not? Or are we just lying to people with human errors along the way?
Let them through, we could get one.
If we let them through, we could get one racing lap. Whoa, 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 whoa. How long will they wait? So what, let's just double check what lap we're on.
Catch the pack up, which they don't have to do.
No.
Then.
So we've just completed lap 55. We've literally just gone on to lap 56. So this lap plus 2 more. Now let's listen to Martin again.
I don't think we'll get a racing lap. If they let them through, we could get one racing lap.
3 laps to go. Nicholas Latifi is seemingly okay after that contact with the barriers.
You're seeing Perez's blue dot disappear there where Red Bull retire Perez. And that hands the Constructors' title to Mercedes. Because Red Bull began that race 28 points behind Mercedes in the Constructors' title. And if they only finish with one car running, the maximum number of points that car can obtain is 26 points. So now, by retiring their second car, that guarantees the Constructors' title to Mercedes.
At about 90 miles an hour, but he would have taken a whack, and it's good to see that he's okay. Sergio Perez coming into the pits again.
So Max,
I think they're retiring the car here. Perez into the pits for the 4th.
Is that Max? Says Martin. That was a human error, Martin. That was designed to get people confused, disorientate people. Oh, what's happening? Oh, excitement.
Time I didn't understand why, but I think they are retiring the car, and yes, they're not going to be working on it, and that is the end of Sergio Perez's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Checo, we need to retire the car. We need to retire the car. Box.
And for the
We need to retire the car. Box.
Really? Yeah.
The driver's surprised.
Box.
and lapped cars will not be allowed.
And lapped cars?
To overtake.
Lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake.
Mandatory in the regulation.
It is, Martin. There's a human error. Okay, it is mandatory. There's a human error. Now, if we go to this view, lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake. There's a human error as well, because the actual official FIA banner is overtaking will not be permitted. Overtaking will not be permitted is quite straightforward for everyone to understand. Because if I tell you and you and you and you and you and if everybody in the world overtaking will not be permitted, what does that mean? It means, oh, I'm not allowed to overtake because overtaking will not be permitted. Lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake. What does that mean? If I'm not lapped, am I allowed to overtake? Are lapped cars allowed to overtake each other, or just not allowed to overtake the lead cars? There's too many questions here. It's an ambiguous message. It's not a message that would form any part of any rules or regulations because of that nature. This is one that they just contrived, along with this little banner that they show to the world to make it look like it's an official banner, an official regulation. No, it's not. It's a lie. It's a construct.
Verstappen with a lot.
Really? Yeah, box.
And lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake.
It's not mandatory.
Yes, it is.
In the regulations, which leaves Verstappen with a lot of work to do then.
No, that's not the truth, Martin, because it doesn't leave Verstappen with a lot of work to do. Because what it does, it leaves Norris with a lot of work to do, trying to chase down Gasly. Oh, you're not allowed to restart like that. You're not allowed somebody crashing, Latifi crashing, to ruin Lando Norris's chances in this race. Because Perez has retired, that's boosted Norris up to 7th, but he's now chasing 6th place Gasly. And you've ruined the opportunity for doing that. You can't do that. But what it actually means, Martin, the reason why lapped cars are not being allowed through, it means that is because it's not safe to do so. And the reason it's not safe to do so, there's marshals still on the track here, because this is Nicholas Latifi's car. Which means, no, it doesn't mean it. It means it's not safe to perform that procedure yet. There's a human error, isn't it? You could show the fans what the crack is with F1 TV showing the world what is going on at turn 14. But no, you don't, do you? You show us what you want us to believe is going on using your narration for your construct. The fraud of Abu Dhabi 2021 that you constructed. Brundle and Crofty narrated the fraud. Anyway, that was Latifi's camera showing you clearly that these are the marshals still on track. Hence, the clerk of the course cannot give the instruction to say, yes, the track is safe. We're now safe to enact that mandatory procedure of unlapping those cars that have been lapped.
Mercedes will be constructors' champions at the end of
yeah, they are.
Of this race as it stands at the moment.
No, they are right now.
Assuming that Hamilton and Bottas finish this race.
Irrelevant. They don't have to finish now. They're 28 points ahead. Even if Hamilton and Bottas crash out of the race, retire under safety car, they're still constructor champions. Nothing to do with assuming at the end. Human error again. How many human errors are there in this script?
The Drivers' Championship, though, is very much up for grabs.
Is it? The only way it's up for grabs is if it can go racing again, or if Hamilton doesn't finish behind the safety car. Now, are we likely to go racing again? Well, there's marshals still on the track. They have to declare the track safe. Realistically, well, not realistically, it's a fact that in order to go racing again, those lapped cars have to be released on this lap, lap 56, so that lap 57 can be that mandatory lap afforded to those released cars with which to attempt to catch the back of the pack. And that is the only way in which lap 58 can be a racing lap. So, this lap is critical. Those lapped cars have to be given the order to be released on this lap. And if that doesn't take place, it will be a safety car finish. And providing he stays on track and gets to the end of that race, Hamilton will be champion because there's no overtaking behind the safety car. Quite simple. But the experts that are able to identify a human error in real time, with all this thinking time, can't.
The lapped cars won't be allowed to overtake, which means that they're...
Which means you can't go racing yet, because you have to carry out the mandatory procedure. I mean, as I illustrated earlier, here's Lando Norris, but here's Gasly now just catching the end of the snake. Now essentially a lap behind Gasly, which means we have to restore sporting fairness to all these competitors prior to the resumption of sport. You'd think, as experts of the sport, contracted, employed broadcasters of the sport, they'd be able to articulate that to the watching audience, wouldn't you?
There are plenty of cars in between Hamilton and Verstappen for Verstappen to fight his way through.
That's not the way it works. There's another human error.
Norris, Alonso, and also Ocon and Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel.
So there's the second time the 5 cars just between Hamilton and Verstappen have been brought to your attention, the viewer. They've not brought to your attention Ricciardo and Stroll, who are in between Verstappen and Sainz. Third place Sainz there, who third place you'd think has got the... He's one of the leaders, isn't he? You'd want him to be able to challenge for second or maybe even first. If your driver, your favourite competitor was in third position in a race, you'd still have hopes that he could get second or even first, wouldn't you? Oh, don't you worry your little heads about that.
None of which are for position, of course.
None of positions, and again, ignoring Perez being there in this, none of 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th, none of those cars are for position. Well, they're in 7th, 8th, 9th, they're not positions, are they, Martin? There's a human error, trying to convince everybody that they don't matter.
No. They're obliged to get out of the way, but Lewis will be long down the road.
They're obliged to get out. Look, you can't restart like that. This again, so you're actually embellishing a lie. That's a human error, Martin.
That I suppose is the compromise that race control have.
I believe that race control are making a compromise. You think this? We're on lap 56, the lap that these lap cars must be released on, and you are making a assumption that race control are compromising on the rules and regulations of this sport. Why would you jump to that conclusion, Crofty?
Made here by giving the best possible chance for racing to the finish rather than finishing behind the...
When have we given the best chance of racing to the finish, Crofty? We're breaking the rules to give the best chance of racing to the finish, is what you think is going to happen, Crofty. Why are you thinking that the race director is going to break the rules of the sport before he breaks the rules of the sport? He hasn't broken the rules of the sport yet. He hasn't done it yet. Why are you thinking that he's going to do that? Who's making the human error, Crofty? This human error under pressure, you think he's going to make that error under pressure? Because we're able to identify in the aftermath, yes, he wasn't allowed to do that. But you're saying that you think he is allowed to do that before it happened. Conditioning everyone to believe that it's possible for him to do that before it happens. Who's making the human error? Who wrote the script, Crofty? Yes, you think that you deserved an Oscar. That apparently that in the practice session before the Miami Grand Prix, you actually tongue in cheek saying yes, you should have got an Oscar for Abu Dhabi 2021 when you were acting, when you were narrating. Yeah. Who wrote that, Crofty? Who wrote the script? Who handed you the script?
Safety car. They've decided the lap cars will stay where they are.
No, because if the lap cars stay where they are, then Norris is now left a lap behind. You can't do that. The regulations will never be applied in a manner to impede the sporting chances of any competitor. Okay, that's in the FIA International Sporting Code, right near the top. Go and have a look. It's all there. It's all written in black and white.
Cancel that lap.
Oh, poor Red Bull, they're being so hard done by. This message actually took place down here between turn 5 and turn 6. Took about 20 seconds. You're about to hear it all in 10.
Cars will not be allowed to overtake.
Yeah, of course. Typical decision.
It's classic.
I'm not surprised.
It's not a typical decision that the lapped cars are not allowed to overtake because it's not a typical decision in any way because it hasn't happened for 10 years. Okay, it's classic. Poor Red Bull. Crofty will be objective.
I'll try and look at this objectively.
Well, no, you won't. But what we'll do is we'll look at it like through this one.
The lap cars to overtake.
Oh, what jeopardy! The racing gods that Christian was calling for 10 laps before the end. I think Max's girlfriend is...
We'd have no laps.
She's praying to them still.
Of racing to the checkered flag. So
praying to the racing gods. We got that on camera, didn't we?
So what do Red Bull want?
What do Red Bull want? Well, fuck what Red Bull want, okay? Because what Red Bull want is not important. What is important is the safety of these marshals on the track here. These guys in overalls that have been clearing the track and haven't left the track. They've got his broom there, okay? What do Red Bull want? Says the human errors. How many human errors are we up to now? What do Red Bull want? So this is lap 56 coming around by turn 14 on lap 56. What do Red Bull want, everybody? You'll see this is Leclerc,
Max Verstappen
and Vettel, and there's Max Verstappen there coming around turn 14. What do Red Bull want? Let's go back to track view so it doesn't get blocked.
To the checkered flag. So what do we should get one lap of racing here.
We should get one lap. What makes you think we should get one lap of racing here? Because you have to carry out a mandatory procedure. There's a human error projecting that you think we should get one lap of racing.
If we allowed the lap cars to overtake, we'd have no laps of racing.
Absolutely right, Crofty.
To the checkered flag.
Because if we allow them to overtake now after they've all passed that incident where the marshals are still on track, so hence the clerk of the course can't declare that track safe, then by that time Hamilton will have crossed the start-finish line. We'll be on lap 57. If the earliest lap of release of those cars is lap 57, the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap, the end of lap 58. That's a safety car finish. We'll have no laps of racing. Absolutely right, but what we're doing, we're keeping you disorientated. Will it be this? Will it be that? We can't tell you the truth. We can't give you clear parameters about what's allowed to happen and what isn't, because our script is to keep you confused, keep you disorientated, keep you guessing, keep you on the edge of your seat. What's going to happen? This is going to happen. Wow! But ahead of this, what we've done is we've conditioned you to believe that these possibilities are possible. But they're not. They're all human errors, aren't they? But it's just Michael Massey that was under so much pressure having to make that split-second decision, wasn't it? And it wasn't Sky Sports commentary during the race, ahead of the error. It wasn't all of these teams, that whilst these team radios are happening now, going, yeah, we think he might restart like this. Why would you think that then? Why would you think that? Because that's not in the regulations. Are all you teams making the same human error? Every single one of these complicit teams, all part of the show, all benefiting financially from it, earning a cut of that greater pot of revenue that you've achieved through attracting a greater audience and exciting the kiddies, yeah, that you're all making more money out of. And you kept quiet about the corruption and just played your role. Is that a human error? Or is that corruption?
So what do Red Bull want?
What do Red Bull want?
Max Verstappen and Gianpiero Lambiase as race engineer, do they want the chance?
Do they want the race director to break the rules or not? Is that a human error, commenting on it like that?
Or do they want to finish behind the safety car with no overtaking? Because I think that is the decision that has come from race control.
I think the race control is going to break the rules to give Red Bull the chance. Do Red Bull want that chance or not?
and personally, this is the decision that gives them the best chance if they want it.
Yeah, I mean...
And personally, this is the decision that gives Red Bull the best chance if Red Bull want it. What the fuck are you talking about? Narrative, isn't it? Contrivance.
The regulation, as I said...
Don't stumble over your words, Martin. What's the regulation? What's the real regulation? Tell us the truth, Martin.
They may allow the lap cars through. It's not mandatory.
It is, Martin. The regulation is if it's safe to do so. Okay, and so it's all grounded on the context of safety. Firstly, the track needs to be declared safe. And clearly it wasn't as they were coming around turn 16 on lap 56 because there were marshals still on the track. So it's not safe. It hasn't met that condition yet. So once the track has been declared safe, any cars which have been lapped by the leader will be required. Okay, that's not optional, is it? A requirement is not an optional procedure to pass the leader. Once the last lapped car has passed the leader, the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. So it might have been declared safe now. So there's a requirement for those lapped cars, 8 lapped cars which still are there required to pass the leader in the safety car, and then the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. The following lap to this one's lap 58, and if the safety car is returning to the pits at the end of that one, it means it's a safety car finish. And providing Lewis Hamilton remains on track, you've just seen history, ladies and gentlemen. You've just witnessed history. You've just watched a world record being broken by Lewis Hamilton. He's now a record-breaking 8-time world champion. You've not heard any of that at any stage during this human era, have you? Not at any stage during this human era have you heard that.
That gives them the best chance if they want it.
Yeah, I mean the regulation, as I said, they may allow the lap cars through. It's not mandatory, as I pointed out, but as you point out, Crofty, there'd be no racing laps if they let the lap car.
Good cop, bad cop. As I point out, it's not mandatory. It is. There's another error from you, Martin. Repeated for the 3rd time. The rule of threes. We have to condition the mind 3 times. But good cop, bad cop. But as you say, there'll be no racing laps. So what are they going to do? I think they're going to break the rules. Let me know what you think.
Through, because I think the safety car will come in at the end of this lap, and there will be 1 racing lap.
What makes you think that the safety car is going to come in at the end of this lap and there will be 1 racing lap without carrying out that mandatory regulation, Martin? Is that all part of the script, is it?
They'll all get blue flags, I would imagine.
Embellish the lie. They'll all get blue flags. That doesn't appear in the regulation because that's not allowed.
Christian and Michael.
Yes, go ahead, Christian.
Yeah.
Don't fumble your words, Christian, from the script.
Why aren't we getting
Oh, for fuck's sake, Christian.
these lap cars out of the way?
Just give me, well, because Christian, just give me a second.
Why aren't we getting them out of the way? Well, just give me a second, Christian. You know it's not to get them out of the way. You've been competing in this sport for many, many years, and you know that these regulations have been here for the last 10, and it's not about getting them out of the way. It's about restoring sporting fairness to Norris, because you can see where he is located relative to Gasly, and we need to afford him at least one further lap after release with which to get on the back of Gasly. So we've met this restart condition prior to the resumption of sporting contest.
Okay, my big one is to get this incident clear.
You only need one racing lap.
Yes, dickhead, but if we can't achieve the condition, we don't get one racing lap, do we? But F1 TV, we're now on lap 57 of the race. Okay, we're on lap 57. If the lapped runners are released on this lap, the mandatory requirement is the safety car returns to the pits at the end of the following lap. We're now guaranteed to have a safety car finish. And F1 TV, the construct of the show, knowing that we are now guaranteed for a safety car finish, they choose this message to play to the world, to condition people's minds to believe things to be a certain way.
Blue flags, I would imagine.
Christian and Michael.
Yes.
Because this isn't live, this is all recorded, and then they pick this to play to us.
Go ahead, Christian.
Yeah. Why aren't we getting these lap cars out of the way?
Just give me, well, because Christian, just give me a second. Okay, my big one is to get this incident clear.
You only need one racing lap.
You only need one racing lap. Is that a human error, or is that mind conditioning? One racing lap, one racing lap, one racing lap. Mind conditioning. Who's making the human error? It's just a split-second decision by one guy under pressure. It's a 10 people in race control. Are there all the teams going, well, the regulations are this. You can't do that. That's not allowed. We think he may restart like this. Why would you think he's going to restart like this? Why are the commentators conditioning everybody that the regulations are optional regulations when they're not? Who's making the errors here? Are F1 TV making the errors by actually conditioning people with this narrative and not showing people what's really going on so people can really understand what's going on?
Well, I assume Christian's talking about then, getting the lap cars out of the way, not clearing the incidents away.
Yeah.
Not clearing the incident away. What are you talking about, Crofty? We've just had to interject in this event with a safety car on the grounds of dealing with a safety incident. And now you're going, I think he's talking about not clearing the incident away. What are you talking about? We have to make sure the incident is dealt with before we remove the safety car. That's the reason it's on the track in the first place, dickhead. But I assume Christian's talking about getting the cars out of the way, not dealing with the incident. Thanks for that, Crofty. There's an error in the script.
I mean, all of the cars in front of Max will get blue flags and are duty bound.
That's not how it works, Martin, the expert. Norris behind Gasly now, 7th, can't challenge 6th. It's not duty bound to get out of the way. It's been afforded the opportunity to recover the ground and close up with the guy in front of them in the same way everybody else is, because what's going to happen is, before any resumption to racing, his second is going to be right on the back of first. Third needs to be right on the back of second. Fourth, right on the back of third. Can you see the pattern here? Which means Lando Norris in 7th needs to be right on the back of 6th, or at least afforded the opportunity by carrying out this process. Oh, they'll all get blue flags. False narrative. Human error.
Bound to get out of the way, but they're all in a reasonable fight themselves, aren't they?
None of which are for position, of course, but they're all in for a reasonable fight themselves. That's change, Martin. Human error.
Well, so here we go.
Embellishing, gaslighting, disorientating. What's going to happen now? Nobody knows. It's so confusing. No, it's not.
Normally, you know, you'd see the race leader backing up the pack a little bit when the safety car goes, I would imagine.
Embellishing, yes. Normally we'd see this, but yes, normally what we'd see is they carry out the mandatory procedure, because that's what you have to do.
On this occasion, if we do get a lap, Martin, Hamilton will want to be disappearing off into the distance.
Why are you talking about a scenario that's not allowed to happen? It's rather strange, isn't it? You see, authentic commentary of a sport would be actually saying, we're now on lap 57 of the race. Prior to the resumption of any racing, they have to carry out a mandatory safety car procedure, which is, because we've got lapped cars in this race now, those lapped cars have to be released, and then that safety car has to remain on track for at least one further lap to enable those cars the opportunity of catching the back of that pack. We're on lap 57. It's too late now to resume racing, because the earliest we could resume racing would be the beginning of what would be a lap 59. It's a 58 lap race. This is a safety car finish. Lewis Hamilton is a record-breaking 8-time world champion, providing he keeps his car on the track and gets to the end of this race. Why aren't you saying that? Oh, or is it just a human error?
As fast as he can.
Yeah, I don't see any way Verstappen can do anything with that, but indeed, is the safety car coming?
You don't see any way that Verstappen can do anything with that.
In this lap, we think it.
Indeed, is the safety car coming in at the end of this lap? Ask the audience, Martin, once again. Martin, the expert, asks the audience what they think in the comment section.
Should do, could do.
We think the safety car should do, could do. Oh, we don't know. Keep everybody guessing. It could do, should do.
Is there any more debris to clear?
Is there any more debris on the... What do you mean? You think the safety car's coming in at the end of this lap and there will be one racing lap? You told us that when they're going round turn 1 at the start of this lap. You've now just told us you think it could do, should do. Now you're asking, is there any more debris on the track? Keep us all guessing, everybody. What's going on here? Nobody knows. It's only live once. Oh, it's all gaslighting. It's all disorientation of the viewer, isn't it?
But we're halfway round already.
Race control are now saying lapped cars to overtake the safety car. So Norris and Alonso and Ocon and Leclerc and Vettel.
The 5. See, he's just listed the 5. That this is for the 3rd time where he's actually identified the 5 cars that were between Hamilton and Verstappen. The 3rd time he's listed those 5 drivers.
It's ending, and it's ending. Wow!
Wow! That's never happened before. You've never done that before. No, something that's never happened before, right at the start of this, that we saw, that has never happened before at Red Bull. And we've identified that as being a human error. This has never happened before. Wow! Not identifying this as a human error. Rather than identify this as being, oh, you're not allowed to do that. Instead, it's, wow! There's a human error, isn't it, Martin? There's a human error from the expert and from Crofty.
Wow!
Mike.
Toto, queued up by F1 TV. Ready to, as soon as, and it's ending. Wow! Michael! Yeah, you have to acknowledge that it's wrong by claiming, oh, Mercedes won't like this. Red Bull, what do Red Bull want? What do Mercedes want? What do Red Bull want? What do Mercedes want? Mercedes don't think this is right. Red Bull think that they're hard done by. Wow! Create the show. You couldn't make it up, could you? Yeah, you did. Yeah, it's an entire contrivance.
So, there's confusion, but the safety car is...
There's confusion! I wonder where that came from, everybody. I wonder where all of the confusion came from. Were you confused? Yeah, we were all confused, weren't we? Who created the confusion? Oh, but it was so bad for Michael Massey. He was under so much pressure, and he made a human error. It wasn't manufactured confusion, was it? No, it wasn't manufactured confusion.
Is coming in at the end of this lap. So those back markers allowed to overtake the safety car, and that has now left.
Those back markers, what about the other 3? What about Carlos Sainz being able to challenge for the second position? Are you saying that, lads? Are you talking about that? Because as the experts of the sport, as the commentators of the sport, you should be able to identify the dynamics that are going on here. Are we going to be in a position where 7th place Lando Norris, who's trying to secure, I think it's 5th place in the Drivers' Championship by accumulating as many points as possible, well, he's not able to challenge Gasly and Tsunoda for places 6th and 5th in this race. What about Carlos Sainz in 3rd? Can he challenge for 2nd or even a win of this race? Because you, the guys, the experts, you should be able to identify this.
Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen.
Michael, this isn't right.
It has led.
Once again, chosen by F1 TV to give a nod to the fact that something's not right, but incite the conflict. But that's all countered by all that you've been confused by, isn't it? Is it right? Is it not? Nobody knows. Oh, there's confusion. Oh, yeah, it's not right, but we're going to have to make a big facade out of all this to convince people to accept it, to move on already.
Left Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen side by side. Hamilton will be ahead. Verstappen is absolutely desperate to get on with this on that soft compound tyre. We're going to have one lap of racing to decide the championship in 2021. Hamilton has the advantage. Verstappen has the faster, fresher tyres, and we have got 3.2 miles.
It's exciting, isn't it? It's really exciting, that one. Manufactured drama. How many human errors were within that? I mean, obviously, you got the errors that were perpetrated by Crofty and Brundle before, suggesting alternative rules and regulations, before Michael Massey in race control broke those rules. You got the errors from F1 TV interjecting with messages to condition us to believe things could be a certain way at times where things weren't even allowed to be possible. But they were setting it up, weren't they? To condition us to believe that they were going to be possible. That's an error. You got errors from F1 TV not showing the viewer clearly what was really going on. Yeah, that's an error. You got the FIA, Massey, with the other people he sat there with in race control, taking all that time to make that human error. And then after the event, you got nobody can identify the problem. They're all celebrating. We've got a problem here. So we've got the media that then construct the narrative afterwards, continuing with the facade of the celebration. You've then got them constructing all these interviews afterwards. You've got them having to make programs the day afterwards with Martin Brundle there, telling people it would be terribly sad if this was settled in a courtroom. You've then got Martin Brundle having to make another video to condition the masses with, in January of 2022, to essentially say the same thing, telling us he know an awful lot about what's going on and it's super uncomfortable for Formula One. Yeah, we've got that video as well. We've got Andrew Benson from the BBC and Roz Atkins from the BBC making news videos, and Benson's written media lying about the rules of the sport, not highlighting the true crux of the problem. They're human errors as well, aren't they? They're human errors. We've got the appeal made by Mercedes to the FIA stewards, which was entirely fraudulent, an entire facade to project that, if Mercedes are taking a legal expert in and they can't get the decision overturned, then yes, don't you worry, little heads. An entire facade. That Red Bull were allowed to go into an appeal that they should have no part of and allowed to present a different version, a different interpretation of the rules that a King's Counsel barrister, legal expert, was unable to display as being utter bullshit. That's strange, isn't it? That's strange. That's a contrivance, an utter facade, all part of the show, all part of the script. But I'll do a more in-depth video exposing the law, the legal experts, these people that fight for justice, working in the justice industry. We'll see. But yeah, this is how many errors are there? How many errors are there within this? Then we've got the FIA. We've got Mercedes, who then didn't go forward with an appeal by the Thursday of that week. That was an error, wasn't it, Mercedes? Instead, accept the promises of the FIA to conduct a review. The FIA took 2.5 months to produce a report on that doesn't identify the problems. Instead, just produces a pack of lies that actually authenticate this false narrative. That was a human error as well. How many human errors within that? It's quite a lot, isn't it? Quite a lot. So we've got the live media broadcast feed lying about the rules of the sport before the rules of the sport are broken, pretending that they can be broken that way. You've got the TV company which constructs the footage and the interjected radio message audio to play to the world. They were making errors. You've got the governing body of the sport making a human error in breaking the rules of the sport. You've got all teams of the sport making a human error, being complicit with the rules of the sport being broken. How many people are making human errors here? You've then got Mercedes perpetrating a human error by accepting the rulings of the 4 stewards who are making a human error by allowing Red Bull into a steward's appeal that they had no party to be in, and then sending Red Bull off to construct their argument to return to the steward's appeal to settle the facade, and then suggesting that Red Bull's argument is more valid than the Mercedes argument and therefore dismissing the appeal. How many human errors are within that? You've got all the post-race interviews, all the post-race bullshit. How many human errors are there that couldn't be identified as being a human error? That we've got the media reporting on it. Andrew Benson from the BBC, Ros Atkins from the BBC reporting on it, bringing in Coulthard, Eddie Jordan, all these former parts of the sport, drivers, team owners. Oh, they couldn't identify the human error, could they? Oh, Autosport, Motorsport, all the media reporting that can't identify the error, can they? How many human errors are in this contrivance? Oh, it's strange, isn't it? Strange. The FIA not able to reverse it, not able to impose a consequence for an error that actually determined the outcome of a race and the outcome of a world championship. Too many errors, really, isn't it? Okay, what are the probability of all that number of people, all that many separate entities, all making so many errors at the same time? You know, simultaneously, that all had to be errors, all had to take place to allow that human error to stick. It's quite a lot of errors. Somebody let me know what the probability of that is. Quite a lot of errors there. What's the probability of them, the UK Serious Fraud Office, refusing to investigate it as well? Because it's a clear fraud. What's the probability of every media firm in this world not exposing it? There's not a single mainstream media firm exposed this. What's the chance of that human error occurring? Strange, isn't it? Strange what constitutes a human error, isn't it? Or it's a contrivance, it's a fraud. This is what happens in this world. Fraudulent activity takes place, illegal activity takes place, and those all part of it, those who control it, control the media to present it to be a certain way. They get away with their crimes. They benefit, they reap the benefit of what they've contrived, and the media just conditions everybody to accept it and to move on already. Move on already so that there's no consequence for the criminals who have constructed it to be that way. That's the way it works. So wake up, ladies and gentlemen. Your favourite driver might be Max Verstappen. Your favourite driver might be Lewis Hamilton. I don't give a fuck. You've been defrauded. You've been defrauded by a corrupt regime, corruption. And if you don't realise it, don't you worry, little heads, and go back to sleep. Enjoy your night. Thank you for your time.